Peace. Good evening. I'd like to welcome you back to another episode of the Foul Playland. As always, I am sort of foul player of Brooklyn, which is the name of my channel as well. But haven't been on of late. Many of you guys know I've been doing videos in relation to, in recent history, migrant crisis, tunnels collapsing upon themselves in New York, all kinds of rarities that don't really get covered in the popular media. I also, in recent history, have been covering a lot of stories in relation to the front runner for the presidential nomination coming up in a few months, and that is Mr. T. Unfortunately, and I've said this in my channel in the past, even talking about Mr. T, if you will, could get your channel screwed with or throttled, if you will. And it's one of the reasons that, or one of my complaints when I come onto this platform, is that the censorship that's utilized at times, and in recent history, a lot of it has been utilized against, again, the presidential front-running candidate in this election coming up in a few months, and that's Mr. T, to be vague. As you guys don't know, Mr. T had the last of all cases that was going to be tried before this upcoming selection. The last case that was standing was this New York case, as far as cases that could have been prosecuted before this upcoming election. The last case that was left standing, since the other cases in Georgia, in Florida, were delayed by what looks like misconduct, if you will, or errors on the part of the people prosecuting Mr. T, such as Fannie Willis. You got holes coming up in the Mar-a-Lago case by the guy who is prosecuting that, Mr. Smith, and so on. All those cases got delayed till after the election, so they're probably going to get dismissed if Mr. T becomes the eventual president. The last case that was standing was the weakest case, probably, which was the Stormy Daniels case. And basically, the gist of it is that Trump was being prosecuted for paying off Stormy Daniels, who was an adult entertainer. At that time, too, I'm going to be candid, I wasn't really following Trump like that. Like, I wasn't like a Trump fan, like, or rooting for Trump like I root for him now, basically. I'm not a Trump fan. But during the times that he, like 2016, 2017, 2018, like, I wasn't on it like that, like in as far as with him. But this case that's playing out now with Stormy Daniels was basically a hush money case in which the Trump is being accused of paying off a exotic dancer or a porn star in Stormy Daniels hush money to remain quiet, and that money came from political contributions. Now, the real teeth of the case is the fact that when you pay a lawyer, you could pay a lawyer 100 times a year. I mean, especially if you have a lot of money, and it's not going to be most times where you're bookkeeping every instance in which you're paying your personal lawyer. But it's basically they're trying to make it seem as if somehow the money that was given to Trump to run in his presidential endeavor was used to pay off Stormy Daniels to remain quiet about a relationship that she had with Trump, supposedly. At this stage, I barely buy that even going down. I mean, some people say, oh, well, you know, what if he did? I mean, like, yeah, I don't care if he did, honestly. But at this stage, I have doubts that even that happened. I don't believe anything that comes out of the media. And that story is churned through the media like no other. Give me 1 second, guys. So, having said that, I don't I gotta take the Stormy Daniels case with a grain of salt because one, I don't give a shit about it. It's not of much importance. Nobody was really hurt. Um, Two, um, it's to try to translate that somebody used political contributions from all the hundreds of billions up to billions that Trump possesses. Like you, it's really hard to try to attribute political contributions um, or what times political contributions were used in contrast to what times Trump's private money was used if he did pay this Stormy Daniels. But nevertheless, it was a trumped up charge. Really hard to find somebody guilty by explaining it in its true form. But nevertheless, Trump was found guilty. In this case, the judge, Juan Marchand, was clearly out against Trump from the onset. If some of you guys don't know, Judge Juan Marchand's daughter actually works as a political consultant of some sort, or as a consultant with I believe, groups of left-leaning journalistic outfits, if I remember correctly. And it was found out and she and somehow that company maybe worked for Biden as well. But some of the people that worked for the company during the trial were actually in attendance by way of and these are people that are represented by the judge's actual daughter. So some people found that extremely funny because the media wasn't able to cover this case in which it should have been let out to the public, every detail of the case, video of the case, what have you, cameras in the courtroom, because of the level of magnitude that this case holds. Like, just yes, I mean, and it's a total. And I was sort of following the case or tracking the case, and I did know that a lot of times that the judge actually made it hard for Mr. T's team to win this case. Like the juries were given instructions that weren't allowed to be printed and given to the Trump's lawyers, in addition to the accuser's lawyers. That was a huge red flag, and that happened just yesterday. In addition to that dumpster fire that happened yesterday, if you guys don't know, Robert De Niro actually made a campaign speech for the current president right outside of the court. It was a total dumpster fire. Robert De Niro didn't know what he was saying. He also had two of the officers that testified during the January 6 hearings. In the background, people were heckling all of them. There was one of the hecklers set off their car alarm. People were shouting at De Niro. People were calling those two officers traitors. And this is one of the cool things about it is that this is in downtown Manhattan in New York City. I know how it is. Like, there's always Puerto Rican dudes, Dominican cats, black dudes, Mexican cats in those areas. Because there's all those people in most areas of New York, but in downtown New York, it's not a button up like a crowd. That's a everybody mouth of the city type crowd. And you had more people that were heckling the Biden campaigners in Robert De Niro than there were people supporting the Biden campaigners, which Robert De Niro was playing that role yesterday. And this was official. Like, it was an official Biden speech or endorsement of Biden that happened outside of this courtroom yesterday, with Robert De Niro, in addition to 2 officers from the Capitol Police that testified in the January 6 hearings. And it was an absolute dumpster fire. Like, the car alarm was going off in the background the whole time. Robert De Niro didn't know what the hell he was saying. There were people that were within the media that were throwing hard questions and hard statements at De Niro and the Capitol officers. Nobody knew what to say. Like, everybody's looking like down, like looking like they got stumped. Like, they have zero response to the hecklers that were heckling them right in front of their faces. But this is, again, happening in downtown New York City. People of all colors amongst the hecklers. And it seems like it's riveting up. Like, just a couple days ago, Trump had a campaign stop in the South Bronx in the Crotona Park. Again, like, it wasn't a white crowd, if you will. Like, and you have that happening right now. Like, just in May, riveting of Trump following increasing, by probably one of the most hood areas in the whole Western world, in the Bronx. Trump has a campaign stop there. Reportedly, it was 8 to 10,000 people there, according to some. But it was a ton of black people, a ton of Latin dudes. The counter protesters weren't able to get shit popping off because you're not going to get that kind of stuff popping off on some hood dudes from the Bronx that are there supporting Trump when you're some dork from NYU whose daddy works for the government. You're going to get your shit rocked in addition to the fact that the protesters were probably 100 in contrast to the thousands of people that were there of all kinds of complexions, least of all probably white, honestly, in this last campaign stop for in the Bronx for Mr. T. And just a few days later, like about an hour ago, this conviction comes down. I'm sure it's going to go to appeal. Nevertheless, the fact that Trump, I'm sorry, I don't want to get censored, God, heaven forbid, by me saying the word, but Mr. T, at this stage, his support is riveting, in addition to the fact, and probably more importantly, in that Biden's support is hemorrhaging. Nobody rocks with Biden. In fact, in the Bronx rally for Mr. T, there were counter protesters there, and they were saying F Mr. T, F current president Biden. They were saying both of them. So they were there just repping Palestine. It wasn't there as necessarily an anti-Trump protest. It was a handful of people compared to the 1,000 of hood dudes that I saw there giving it up for Mr. T. So just a few days later, this corrupt courtroom in New York with Judge Juan Marchand, who is, again, his family is working for the same political entities that are outright against Trump. Some judge that should have recused himself because of his daughter's political alineations gives these crazy instructions last night to the jury yesterday, in which they were told which testimony to dismiss. They were also made to re-listen to 2 of the prosecutors' witnesses, people that were against Trump. He made them re-listen to their testimony this morning. That was happening all day. As of this evening, Trump is found guilty. And it's really gonna get hectic from here on out. I mean, it's gonna be real hard for Mr. T to actually see prison time because of the uh, logistics of somebody who has a constant Secret Service detail being in a being put in a jail. You know that I mean, like you'd have to lock down like a whole wing essentially. They're not gonna put him in C-74 and Rikers in General Pop. You know, it's gonna be a wing of Rikers in addition to at least a 50-man Secret Service detail at all times. And it's just going to be a nightmare. And I see them maybe not trying to put him into jail just based off that, but also that in a few months, if things stand as they do, Trump is going to be the next president from all the polling that's showing up now. Biden's extremely unpopular. Trump's popularity is rising or gaining in places that he probably didn't have in the first place, like in New York. Now, say for instance, what kind of a campaign moment it's going to be for Mr. T if, say, like he were put into a jail in New York City. The amount of support and supporters that are going to flood into the city, not for a Trump rally, but for instance in which they think that somebody is unjustly going into a prison in their city while the city's falling apart at historic rates. New York sucks. I actually had to go into New York and this weekend, and I'm not, but also in New York, migrant crisis, biggest city with afflicted by this migrant crisis that's endorsed by the current president. New Yorkers like myself and every other New Yorker that I know detest the fact that migrants are coming in and New York's accepting them. And you're seeing it play out in front of you when Trump has a rally in the midst of what's supposed to be enemy turf for him. And not only do counter protesters not show up, but Trump's supporters are black and brown all over in that last Bronx rally. But just downtown from the Bronx in Manhattan, New York, Trump is found guilty. If you guys don't know, should Trump actually go to jail, he could still run from jail and still win the presidency from jail. One good thing about this, though, and one of the reasons I'm actually excited about this happening is that a lot of people are going to start looking into everybody involved in this case, all the people that were present at this case, and they're going to see what was playing out, things that what I just shared in terms of the judge's daughter working for hard liberal leaning publications that were also allowed exclusive access to the trial. A trial that you and I didn't have access to by the powers that be, by New York City, by the major media. Unless it was negative about Trump, it wasn't being aired in terms of this trial, which is of uber importance because, again, like I said, it was the weakest case. It was the last case that could have been prosecuted before the election, but it's the case that he was found guilty of besides Georgia. And, I mean, although he was found guilty in Georgia, that case is falling apart faster than, the jet crashing. But now you have this case, the weakest of them all, a case that you really had to really get really creative in saying that whatever this money was, I believe it was 30,000 or less, I don't know, was of Trump's billions of dollars, in addition to the millions that he's received from political contributions. It's really pulling hairs to say that um, $30,000 from a billionaire's life was somehow political contribution rather than his personal money. But nevertheless, the judge's instructions were very stringent. In addition to the fact there was also an outright Trump hater on the actual jury. This was known and actually put out on NBC News. A woman or a man, I think it was a woman though, that because they don't put their identities out, that was said to not like Trump or hate Trump, but that it wasn't going to affect her judgment for this trial. And again, that happened. It was, again, I seen it on MSNBC. I watch MSNBC like to listen to bad news and laugh most times. But that was put out on MSNBC, but it wasn't put out to say like it was a fallacy or anything like that. It was put out just as a story that they put out really quickly and then go on to talk about the New York Giants or some shit. But that happened in terms of the judge, one of them being outright anti-Trump. And you're also picking from a pool of New Yorkers. The judge has a lot to say in the jury that do get selected. And if he has any Mr. T hating in his background, it's going to be out in the open in the next coming days, in the next coming weeks and months prior to the election. But just because people have the internet now, and that's just what people do. And now you're having a groundswell of people that are coming into support of Mr. T that are going to be putting these online detective skills to use and find out about a lot of the creepy characters that were lingering around this case, such as Norm Eisen, Andrew Weissman commentating on the case just a couple minutes ago on MSNBC, I believe, or CNN. Somebody who was involved in some illegal things in terms of Mr. T in the past, according to some people, allegedly. In addition to, again, Norm Eisen, a really sleazy DC character that was actually present in this case. Maybe some people put their investigative skills into, the judge's background, his family's background, some of the sleazy people that were allowed to be witnesses in this case, some of the people that were allowed, some of the sleazy people that are DC sleazy people that were allowed to be in attendance in this case when, again, you and I weren't allowed to watch this case play out for public view. But, it's a lot of rules for thee and not for me with the powers that be in the Western world, if you will. And a lot of people are right at this time, May 2024, and moving on, realizing all this and are getting pissed at a minimum, or, in a really far out scenario, getting pissed, but are also at a minimum coming into the support of Mr. T and angst against Biden and what's playing out in this country. Everything's getting more expensive. I mean, if you're not seeing that the witch hunts that are happening against Mr. T are unfair, I mean, it's been 7 years, 8 years of them looking into the life and background of Mr. T, and they really haven't able to come up with anything of sustenance besides these cases in Georgia, which look to be full of shit, allegedly. And now this case happening now in New York City, which he was found guilty, which also looks to be full of crap. And it might look worse, honestly, this case than the Georgia case. The Georgia case was basically two people screwing around in Fannie Willis and the lead prosecutor against Trump in Fulton County. With the New York case, you actually have people that left positions from, let's say, the Democratic Party, prosecutors that were liberal leaning, if you will, that had positions in the DC government that went to take jobs in the New York City DA's office with this Trump case. Again, this is the weakest case of them all, but it's this one, one of them that that is found to be guilty. Let me read comments. I don't know if we can get comments on this channel, my friends. Greeny Green, my friend, thank you for coming through, bro. Get out of New York now, my friend. That happened many weeks ago. I mean, many years ago. Not many years ago, but I left New York pre-lockdown. I actually left New York way before that. I probably left New York 2019. But here I am. I live in the burbs, but I don't live very far from New York. That's the one caveat. I live about 40 minutes from New York, give or take, if I were to leave my house now. So, but I live in the burbs, and I live in the burbs for a reason. I mean, even before Biden got into office, New York was getting too expensive and too packed for my taste. But I was already out of New York during the Trump presidency, honestly. I moved into this house in 2019, my mistake. But I lived in another part of Jersey City, which is another shithole. But I'm here now in a different part of New Jersey, if you will. But thank you for coming through. Again, this channel does get throttled, and that's why I say I don't get comments. And to see new faces, I mean, it's a blessing. But also, if they could do an ex-pres like this, imagine what they do to an average Joe. No, and this is true, Mr. Greeny Green. Thank you. And that's what's playing out in real time. I mean, you're seeing instances of government agencies surveilling on churches, really gun-ho attitudes from government agencies going after people that may be pro-lifers. But you're seeing that play out now in real time, and the media is not covering it one iota. That's been happening for quite some time. Though I wanted Biden to win the presidency in 2008 because I didn't give a shit, honestly. Like, I don't vote. I was rooting for Obama to win because, I mean, at that time I'm in New York. I'm a hood dude. But I started seeing how the media covered anything to do with Obama, although I knew at that time what the Obama presidency was getting up to in drone strikes, Africa falling apart thoroughly during the Obama presidency, and the media wasn't covering it for shit. And again, I wanted Obama to do good because of, I want a brother to do good, or what I would consider a brother, but Obama didn't really do shit for brothers, one iota, and he certainly got away with the media coverage, never showing any of the warts that were happening during his presidency. And if you want to get really liberal, you could attribute a really new style of warfare in drone fighting or drone attacks that were introduced during his presidency. I mean, but again, liberals are cool with certain types of war like Ukraine, but are crybabies when they want to be. But thank you for coming through, Greeny Green, and great comment. But again, all these warts are being played out in real time. I wasn't really in tune with believing anything the media said because I started being disenfranchised with all forms of TV, movie entertainment around 2007, 2008, and it really started worsening from there. Music, stopped listening to hip hop. around that time as far as new artists. But having said all that, I really wasn't in tune with the media, so I didn't believe the hype on anything they said regarding anything to do with the lockdown, and I was right. I mean, and the expert class was extremely wrong. But some people, and again, I came to that realization because I knew, as far as disenfranchisement with the regular media, because I knew in 2008 that a lot of the things that were the bad things that were happening in the Obama presidency, which gentrification, particularly in New York City, which is one of the reasons I left New York City, started really striking at that time. I came home and I wanted to buy a house. I was always into real estate, even as a little kid, not selling real estate or buying real estate because I was broke as a kid, of course. Section 8 my whole life. But I always knew what the prices of houses in my neighborhood were selling for by reading these free publications that they would give out in the grocery stores and whatnot. And I just always knew that, a house for $125,000 in New York, which is what they were selling for since I was 7 years old up until 2006, where these same crappy houses were going for, from jumping up from $100,000 to $370,000 in the beginning of gentrification to never looking back again. Some of these same crappy houses now are $2 million. And these are areas that I grew up in that are unattainable. And I mean, I didn't grow up in anywhere nice. My neighborhood, Sunset Park, definitely not a good neighborhood. But, I still wanted to own a house, brownstone in Sunset Park, that were selling for $100,000, $125,000 up until 2006, and the brunt of the rapid rise in real estate that not only happened in New York first, but started happening across the country was really set off by a lot of the policies that Obama put in place. In spite of all that, though, I fell out of love with the media around that time because I knew they could be veered in one direction, and I knew it was happening with Obama. During the Trump presidency, first presidency, up until the end, in the beginning of the Trump presidency, I just had so much personal shit going on, including leaving New York City, that I wasn't really in tune with the politics like that. I was actually more in tune with the politics that were happening abroad. And I sort of had the kind of like a lazy attribution of maybe Trump, the Trump accusations from the media of him being a racist, being that I saw all media members doing that, all members of the media doing that in the beginning of the Trump presidency, Trump being confronted by the media in a really rough fashion. And I wasn't really tuning in to maybe domestic politics at that time like I should have been. But I thought that maybe there was where there was smoke, there was fire. Maybe these accusations of Trump being a racist were true, or that the Trump presidency wasn't as good as it was being made look to be. Trump's presidency was being made look to be like there was a racial storm every 2 seconds. But looking back at it, not that I believe most of that shit, like Charlottesville, I didn't believe because I actually go to Charlottesville. At that time, I was visit my nephew in a town near Charlottesville, and I knew for sure that a lot of that shit was more photo ops. Knowing what I know now, knowing that like a lot of bad people get up to making situations look to be way worse than what they are. Were there racists in Charlottesville? Of course, there probably was, but was it likely a photo op? Absolutely. And a photo op is usually made by people that want to make something look far worse. But I more fell out of started realizing how dangerous the media was more so at the end of Trump's presidency, in addition to the lockdown or pre-lockdown era, if you will, where they were really trying to sell you on drinking the tea that was mandated, if you will. Something that, again, a lot of people were reluctant to do it and were felt like they were coerced, mandated to do it. That now realize what's what. That realize that a lot of people that didn't drink the tea, like myself, and I never took one of those stupid tests either. But exclusive club. But having said that, um, the people that were forced or coerced to take the tea, like a lot of people in New York City, were forced and coerced to take the tea. A lot of broke black dudes in New York City that wanted to keep their employment. A lot of broke black chicks in New York City that wanted to retain their employment. A lot of broke Puerto Rican dudes, Puerto Rican chicks. You know, a lot of people of little means that didn't want to drink the tea, that were coerced into taking it by something that was lauded by the current president. You know, that are now in 2024, May of 2024, maybe coming into the realization that, you know, I came into in early 2020. I mean, in 2008 to a degree, that the media is 100% bought and paid for. The media could be wielded in one direction, like it has been against Mr. T. I mean, if you don't see that at this stage of the game, I mean, you're either dishonest or just a fool, or somebody who suffers from extreme Trump derangement syndrome. Um, but every member of the media, uh, including Fox News, I mean, Fox News is not much for Trump. Fox News covers Trump in a favorable fashion when they're forced to. When it's so obvious, like a case like today, that there's no getting around it, they have to cover it to any degree. But in most instances, a lot of these Trump isn't getting real coverage from Fox News or from Fox. Trump isn't getting real investigations done from Fox. I mean, look at how many bad things could be looked into. A lot of these non-government organizations that are involved with bringing migrants into America from other countries, which is obviously happening. I mean, and it's not even a secret. But Fox News could get an investigation going on one of these NGOs. And how many times has that happened? Zero. They've had 3 years, 4 years. So Fox News is not for Mr. T, but the rest of the non-conservative, quote unquote, media, which is everything with the exception of Fox News, is ardently against Trump. And I'm glad that this is happening to a degree, because a lot of people are turning away from the media. And that's what should be happening. To hell with Fox News. Your media should be real people like you and I. And it's you and I that are affected by these policies. And not that I was opposed to Trump, really, like a lot of the at any point, honestly. I just wasn't in tune to him in his early presidency. But in the latter portion of his presidency, I really supported a lot of the moves that he was doing. Anti more people coming into the country of any variety, whether that be yuppies moving into New York City, which I don't want, or um, migrant hordes coming into New York City. I don't want neither. But it's those same yuppies that move into these high-rise buildings in New York that get online and make it seem like they're pro migrants coming into New York City. They live in New York City in high rises for 2 or 3 years, blow their trust fund, and go back to Michigan or back to California, where they're from, because they want to live a New York experience, like for a few years, or be an artist, or play a flute for a couple of years and blow through their trust fund. But those same people are gun-ho and got into New York politics, are gun-ho with every dumb liberal idea, and now at this stage, it's come to a kettle pot condition in New York City. let alone the rest of the country. But the media, for the most part, doesn't cover the struggles that you and I have endured, um, particularly these past couple of years. But I'm glad that normal people, if you will, are coming to the conclusion that, you know, we may have been had in many instances when it comes to the expert class of recent history, when it came to the lockdown and making you drink the tea, something that I was adamantly opposed to and never did it, nor again took one of those stupid tests up my nose. But you're talking to somebody who also got a case of bad New York City COVID and survived it. Here I am. I didn't go to the hospital. I was pissing through my throwing up through my ass and mouth, but here I am, still robust and amongst you. No big deal. 3-day flu, nothing to die for. Which I mean, if you checked yourself into a hospital in New York, your chances of dying were highly increased. And this is from personal experience. Many of the people I know from my neighborhood. I don't want to put nobody on blast because I did that once and people got angry. But I know a few people in my personal life. Again, people of little means, not white people. Just because I'm sprouting stuff that may seem conservative in 2024. No, I'm not race-hating Puerto Rican or self-hating Puerto Rican. I'm a regular hood motherfucker. Came up Section 8. Ran around my hood. I was an old fucking house bird. So you would kick rocks as far as putting that disposition in my direction. But I'm here to tell you now that, and again, I've been this way in 2019, 2020, taking lumps from talking to my own people about us being had. But now, I mean, they can't ignore the facts. Everybody that I know is feeling it right now. I go back to Sunset Park, Brooklyn. Half the people look like they have dope head vibes. The other ones give me the impression that they're fucking a couple bits of bad news away from doing something really bad. So, you know, the media is making it seem like things haven't been at a critical. Our politicians, honestly, beside one, is not making it seem like things are really at a critical mass like they are. This is including conservative politicians on the Hill and in the Senate, are really not taking the situation that's happening in many facets in the country seriously, but also to the disgusting things that are happening with this trial in New York City and the 3 other trials that Trump is facing at this current juncture. Again, the federal trials were thrown out, and if Trump becomes the president, it's gonna, you know, he could throw out the Mar-a-Lago case. When Trump becomes the president, I mean, the pendulum is going to swing the other way. And you're going to see investigations into a lot of this stuff. I hope a lot of online gumshoes and detectives, investigators, get on the job of investigating some of these people that were allowed to be in attendance for this Trump trial in New York. Some of the people that recently became employed by the New York City District Attorney's Office, which one of them have political affiliations or political posts recently, which ones of them came from government offices in DC directly to the New York City District Attorney's Office to work this case against Trump, which we now know, unfortunately, Trump was found guilty. To the people that, you're going to have that crowd of TDS sufferers that hate Trump. Regardless, I mean, this is only going to send our country into turmoil. Like it or not, it looks like Trump is going to win the presidency, front runner in all the polls. Trump's heading into a debate with Biden, two debates actually. Biden has trouble standing in place in most instances when you're seeing him on TV. The media at this stage really can't ignore it. Even liberal media, it's really late to introduce a replacement to Biden at this current juncture. So the liberals are going to have to swallow this one whole prior to the selection in November. But after that, I mean, Trump's going to have a lot more experience as far as working within the halls of DC, and he's going to want some get back. I mean, and to the TDS sufferers, I mean, like, you got to come to the realization that you may have been had with Trump. And again, like, these are the biggest investigators, best investigators in the whole world with the most means. If they want to comb through your life, they will, and they are. But they haven't found anything bad about Trump up until pretty much he was intending on announcing to run for the 2024 presidency with these 4 cases. Again, the weakest of which is this New York case, and unfortunately for the state of this nation and abroad, Trump was found guilty not too long ago. I mean, it's a cluster. I was actually sort of considering going into New York Saturday, like I said, but that's a hard no for me now. The area that I was going to go to, it's the area right next to my neighborhood, Bay Ridge. And shout out to my Arabic brothers. Love you guys a lot, like the ones that I grew up with. I mean, the couple that I grew up with, but Bay Ridge is a high level of Arabic population. And there's a big festival happening there, the Bay Ridge Festival, and it's usually a lot of fun because it's like 2 miles of walking, like in down like a really nice area of Brooklyn. You can see the Verrazano Bridge and off to the distance. But I'm not trying to be around no protesters if something like that springs off, which I don't think will happen. But I don't want to be far away from my house, and I certainly don't want to be in no fucking New York City. Not only this weekend, but pretty much 99.9% of the time. And I wanted to go actually see my mom and bring my wife and son into New York, but not happening. I had Greeny Green again. I haven't heard of anyone dying outside of the hospital. Yeah, that's 100%. If you guys saw footage of the hospital in that they were showing a lot of times with the meat truck outside of it during the crisis, the Wu flu, if you will. That was actually a hospital, Maimonides Hospital, in my neighborhood. It's actually a Jewish hospital that is at the border of my neighborhood on 9th Avenue and 50th Street, Maimonides Hospital. But that was one of the hospitals that had a meat truck outside of it that was amassing bodies. So that hospital, in addition to the other hospital in my neighborhood, Lutheran Hospital, there was tons of people that were going in there that I knew personally that didn't come out. And some of the people that I know that went in there actually went in there and they weren't really that sick or healthy people. So take that with that what you will. Again, if you have any sort of memory of what happened long ago in 2020 and 2021. I mean, Mr. T wasn't gung-ho in terms of crowding the hospitals, in terms of forcing mandates. You know, the one thing that he did, which some libertarians may hold against him from what you see online, is that he came up with the T that eventually was mandated during the Biden presidency. But otherwise, if he didn't come up with the T, these fools were going to go into Trump losing the election for us to go into presidency with somebody who's senile, who's really not running things. I mean, like, I don't think that the current resident is the one calling the shots. I mean, and he's on vacation more than a third of the time. So you really can't be working and getting down politically like you should be as the commander in chief if you're not in DC. The majority of, a big chunk of your presidency like that. Um, but now people are remembering that it wasn't Trump forcing a mandate. I mean, if you had any sort of memory too, I remember when the liberals were actually anti-vax initially, when Trump was the one that cut a lot of the red tape to create the vax. But again, going back to the point that I wanted to make before, is that had we were going into Trump in 2020 losing the presidency, going into still the supposed COVID crisis that was happening, also going into Trump taking a loss, probably more than for the biggest reason was because of the pandemic, if you will, according to most people, to going into if had Trump not come out with the vaccine or cut the legal red tape to create the vaccine, we would have been heading into a Biden presidency with just as much censorship, if not more, than we have now. Maybe lockdowns because of, we haven't created the vaccine because we want to go through the supposed proper protocols. So you guys got to stay in your houses for 2 years. You had a lot of COVID idiots during 2020, 2021. You still have COVID idiots that wear 2 masks. You would have had more ingrained, hardened COVID idiots had we gone into 2021 and 2022 up until today, maybe without a vaccine. We would have been going through debates of whether like people that aren't signing up for it being menaces to society, like it was happening in 2021. A lot of people that were not drinking the tea, if you will, were deemed as public health hazards, if you will. They should be locked up, and according to some people. To now, how many people do you hear that should have taken their at this stage? I mean, they would have been at 16 boosters if they would have been following the booster schedule that was recommended. How many people? When's the last time you heard somebody take a booster? When's the last time you went to Walgreens and they were promoting the fact that they give boosters for free? So that trick has been wasted, if you will, sort of, thanks to Mr. T. It's a trick that can't be utilized in 2024. One thing that does scare me, though, is what could they come up with to try to stop 2024? Who knows? I know they can't pull out the hyperflu trick out of the bag again. So do we get a crazy war happening? Is there a nuclear incident to go down in the Middle East to put us in a World War III standing? What does that do to the election year? Does Biden retain his presidency because of we go into World War III? Will the TDS sufferers still cheer Biden victory or Trump loss if we go into World War III or nuclear world war, so long as Trump's not the president? Who knows? But one thing that does scare me, though, is that the people that are opposed to Trump, if you will, the deep state, allegedly has the capability of something really bad happening or making something bad happening to Trump in a certain situation. If you guys don't know, during the Mar-a-Lago raid, it was recently found out that the warrant had authorization for use of force, which would have been a really dangerous situation. The Secret Service is vowed to protect the presidents and ex-presidents, their families, So, what kind of a situation would we have come into? Should have Trump said, "No, you're not going to go search my son's room or my wife's panty drawer." Um, will the people that raided Mar-a-Lago last year would they have possibly shot Trump? These are things that you are at least a possibility based on the warrant that was issued. I mean, now some people are going to say that that's standard issue and they had the use of force, but at that time, Trump was in cooperation with the National Archives and cooperating with them as to what documents he was going to return, should have returned, what documents he thought were his. Where out of nowhere you get raid by these elements within the government. Um, and I hope that people that are now coming into the realization that some things are entirely off from what the media has been telling you in terms of not only Trump. Trump is the figurehead of the media being full of crap, and that there's really dark things happening at this current juncture, not only in America but around the world. But also, people, the possibility of something really bad happening to Trump. What's going to happen there? And I really don't want something like that to happen. I don't want Trump to go to jail. Neither. I think investigations are fair, so long as it's not unnecessary and constant, which is what's been happening to Trump. It's prosecution politically and lawfare happening at first hand, and it's not like on other case, all these other cases where even the TDS sufferers were, oh man, yeah, but he keeps getting away with all these cases. No, like in the New York City case, he was actually found guilty. So, I think this is going to bring more people to Trump. I think that Trump, if things get really out of hand and he does go to jail, I don't. I think that actually helps Trump in terms of the November happening dramatically. Trump campaigning from jail. I mean, it would be really good for Trump, Mr. T's numbers. Having said that, though, I mean, this country is becoming into a laughingstock. In addition to the rest of the Western world, and they're really taking our lead. But thankfully, a mass waking up is happening here in May 2024 in real time. I mean, I know people personally that all they put on Facebook was anti-Trump stuff and just stop posting on Facebook. People that, their whole Facebook or life in the internet was 100% anything to do with Trump or anti-Trump, to now either remaining quiet or, oh yeah, all politicians are, like people that were, bigging up Biden, that was my cat thumbs, that are now coming to the either at a minimum saying, oh well, they're both bad, I'm not gonna vote, to like now saying, yeah, like or to like where hood people that I know from Brooklyn are now saying, I'm 100% for Trump, and we'll see. I mean, like, do I think that some funkiness happened during the last vote tallies and whatnot? I mean, I'll keep my opinion to myself. This fucking cat is messing with my computer chart. Leave that. But do I think that the capability of that happening again in 2024 is there? Yes, I do. But I don't think that the people are gonna let it go. If you guys don't know, after the last selection, there was it was also censored to think that the person that won didn't win by legal means. That's something that you probably still get throttled for, should you bring it up on this platform that I am right now, which I hate. In addition to other platforms. Having said that, though, it not only will they not be able to pull that trick out of the bag, but hopefully we're able to look back and investigate some of these things that happened, uh, even during the Trump presidency. Trump did investigate some things before he left office, such as the Durham report, and that wasn't a good look for the current administration, which a lot of them have the same players from the Obama administration. But now we're going to see if Mr. T does get in office, groundswell of investigations that are happening, that are going to happen. And a lot of the American public is not going to take their cues from the media and say that, oh, well, Mr. T's being unfair by investigating the last president or the presidents before him or what have you, or if he investigates branches of the government. So no matter what, things are going to get super spicy. Never fret, because ultimately, I think we're heading into better times, no matter what. Things at this stage really can't get worse than what they are in most people's eyes. The media is not making it seem that way. The media is making it seem like Drake versus Kendrick should be important, or what that fool Travis Kelce and that skinny broad that he's dating, that their lives are important. But the fact that they're eating ramen noodle this evening is far more important, or more interesting to me, especially if the current conditions of this country are forcing you to eat a shabby meal. But never fret. I mean, at a bare minimum, the the next president, who's slated to win, should be far better than what we have in office now. And I'm hoping that your economic conditions, like most people who are really struggling right now with groceries, the cost of gas, with the increases in their taxes for their homes, increases in rent, more than anything, I hope that some of that is alleviated moving forward. I think that this country is outstanding, great. The land that we live in is great. I think that the politicians that are within the country, 99% of them are abject shit, are sellouts, timid at a minimum. I think that there's swampy politicians on both the Republican and the Democratic Party. And I know that that swampy side of the powers that be in DC are adamantly opposed to Mr. T. And just off that, he's gained a favor in my eyes in the past. But I think a lot of people that were dead asleep are now coming to the realization that something really big is coming up, regardless of how you cut it. I mean, we're at the doorstep of World War III. When Mr. T was one of the first presidents to not start a new war. We're abject broke in most cases. And New York has never looked shittier. The country has never looked shittier. I travel all the time. I travel to many cities. Every city I've gone to has looked far worse from 2020 to 2021. Every city I go to with any sort of frequency looks way worse every time I go to it in recent history. And that's a lot of it attributed or happening during the time of the current president. But, things will get spicy, but don't get disenfranchised. I mean, this New York case, I don't think that there's anything to it. Again, I think that it's going to go into appeal. Um, but even if it doesn't, even if something really bad happens, don't lose hope. Never fret. I mean, keep your head on a swivel. Don't be frivolous with your money. Uh, if you could invest in God's money, gold and silver. Um, been a little bit of an up jump in silver prices. Gold too. I'm more of a silver guy. No, it's not because I'm broke and I can't afford gold. I've come onto the streams in the past wearing 30,000 worth of gold, 50,000 worth of gold. It ain't, but silver I think is the move. It's being suppressed um, for many years, and you're starting to see a little bit of a jump. It's almost jumped a third of price since March, so that's a good thing. The only commodity that hasn't jumped in price, it's actually decreased in price in the last 5 years. But you're starting to see some headway with that, and that's exciting. But I think you guys should get out of the or protect yourselves in that fashion if you could. But as bad as things are, just think to yourself that things can't get much worse. Even if things do get much worse, things could only get better. Um, and just keep that in mind. I want to thank you guys for stepping into the Foul Playland with me. I'm gonna try to come more frequently. I had poison ivy, fucking terrible. I thought that shit was a joke in the past. I thought it was like mosquito bites or some shit that go away quickly. Not the case. My wife was destroyed by the fucking poison ivy in my house. It was terrible. I'd actually show you the vine. Actually, I will show you part of the vine, that bastard. I've showed it in some of my past videos where I've killed the Chinese locust. I forgot the name of them. But the Chinese lantern flies, which are in were really affecting New York and New Jersey. But that wretched vine that's in my backyard had your boy Foul Playski fucked up. Had Mrs. Foul Playski fucked up as well. Had to go to the hospital and everything. It was terrible. But I'm on the med. Oh, but also I had just in these past couple of days, I had an infection in my eye, and that's why I'm wearing the sunglasses. But it's on the mend now, and I hope to come on to YouTube more. I mean, it sucks because again, I know I'm throttled for sure, so it's like a lot of times I'm a man at the end of the day. I mean, like, not that I want to be a fucking YouTube star or Mr. YouTube friends and family and whatnot, but I know that a lot of the things that I cover, particularly the fact that I'm not some redneck or some shit that has what's deemed to be conservative views in 2024, that this platform, in addition to most other platforms I jump on, are going to throttle me. And sometimes it does disenfranchise me, like, to come onto the platform and make videos, and I get shitted on algorithmically, I think. But nevertheless, I mean, I thought it was important to come on today with what happened with the front runner for the next presidency. And I'm going to try to come on more, hopefully, but I'm not going to make promises because I got a lot of shit going on, frankly. And it's never good news. God damn it. Like, so, I mean, and not that today was good news either, but nevertheless, it's important. To the TDS sufferers, I mean, again, when 47 comes into play and he gets in office, the get back is going to be real. I mean, we're going to be drinking liberal tears in 2024. Again, if nothing crazy doesn't play out. But as far as criminal cases against Trump, no, those aren't going anywhere. The case in New York, though he was found guilty, isn't going anywhere. So I hope that is not a reason to disenfranchise you. It should be a reason to to invigorate you. I want to see mass numbers of voters, even if you don't vote for Mr. T. I want to see big participation. Unfortunately, I'm not going to participate, but I am definitely going to observe. I did observe what happened in the last selection at 3 or 4 in the morning, real time. Me and my son stood awake. My son's not a little kid. He likes politics too. And we watched in real time what happened. And we were laughing about it, honestly, as it was happening in 3, 4 in the morning in Georgia, plumbing problems at the centers, if you will. But there's going to be a big time get back. There's going to be at a minimum. I mean, best case scenario, like 45 becomes 47, and he gains the presidency again, and a bunch of investigations happen. Worst case scenario, I mean, World War III and assassinations. So do with that what you will, but don't get disenfranchised either way. Keep trudging along, and dead the all media, including Fox News. Fox News is 100% full of shit. Tucker, although he does cover some things that I agree with, he's not really going in and investigating a lot of the things that should be investigated right now. I live by a small airport that shouldn't be used. It's mostly used by private pilots, and that airport, private pilots don't usually get authorization to fly like past a certain time. That airport has been flying nonstop since the COVID pandemic, honestly. Um, like there's constant planes coming in basically in this small airport. That's happening in a ton of other airports that I know of. High levels of frequency of planes coming in and out. There could only be peoples on that plane by my estimation now, given the powers that be's stance in regards to new migrants coming in. I think the migrant crisis has been happening not only at the border, but through airports. And we're in for a world of shit regardless. I mean, so at the end of the day, what you could do for yourself, I mean, grab the day by the balls and do for self. I mean, you could do nothing else. These are really tough times. I think these are historically some of the toughest times in the history of the country. The 80s were really rough in New York City. New York City looks worse than the 80s at this current juncture. At least in the 80s, I mean, things were burnt down. There was a lot of graffiti, but I didn't feel unsafe in the 80s in New York one iota. I mean, I felt like I was having a blast in the 80s in New York City. Like now in New York City, and drug dealers in New York City, if they saw crazy people acting up or flashing their dicks at kids, the drug dealers would have put a hole in them and left them to rot in an abandoned car instantly in the 80s. Now, you have jackals running around acting crazy, being rough, punching people. And these are people that aren't even crazy like that a lot of times. They're just fucking assholes that have main character syndrome and want to act out and do stupid shit like that and don't get prosecuted, or they're probably crazy. But you have a lot of that happening now in New York, in addition to the fact that New York looks like utter shit, just like it did in the 80s. But there's a ton more people living in New York now, so it's shittier for me. At least in the 80s, people were leaving. In 2024, it's utterly shitty, and dumb yuppies are moving in addition to a migrant horde. So I take the 80s over 2024 any day of the week. But having said that, I do think that 2024 are the toughest times ever. Rent higher than it's ever been. Home prices higher than it's ever been. Groceries are joining those prices as well. But you keep in there. You fight. And that's where I'll leave you guys. I hope the Rangers win this evening, and I'm going to be watching that game right now. Big time Ranger fan. The other team that I root for, the New York Mets, suck. historically bad moments, and one just happened yesterday. Boxing, one of the things I cover a lot on this channel in the past. I mean, not much going on there. Who gives a shit? Fights don't happen that frequently. I don't care. Um, the political machinations that are playing out in front of us are way more important and far more interesting and salacious. And I want to cover that more on this channel. So if anybody's come, Greeny Green, or my brother or sister, um, thank you for coming through. Michael Johnson, Boxing Talk and More. Anybody who listens to this after the fact, take care of yourselves and hope you come back. Go Rangers. Peace.